The sun peeked over the horizon, casting long shadows across Blue Horizon Ranch. Jett stirred in his bed, feeling something was off. The air felt heavy with tension. He glanced at Jennifer, still sleeping peacefully beside him. He hated to wake her, but they had work to do.
Honey, it's time.
Jett gently shook Jennifer's shoulder. Her eyes fluttered open and she nodded, understanding the urgency in his voice. They dressed quickly. No time for coffee this morning. The ranch was calling, and so was danger. They stepped onto the porch, the cool morning air hitting their faces. Jett scanned the property. Everything looked normal, but he knew better. Virelli's men had been spotted near the old mine shaft. That couldn't be good. They needed to investigate, and fast.
We'll figure this out.
Jennifer squeezed Jett's hand. He nodded, grateful for her strength. They'd face this together like they always did. The ranch depended on them, and they wouldn't let it down. Not now, not ever. Tom approached the house, his face grim.
Boss, we've got trouble.
Jett's heart sank. He'd been expecting this, but it didn't make it any easier.
We spotted Virelli's men near the old mine shaft last night. They were carrying something. Looked heavy.
Jennifer's grip on Jett's hand tightened.
What do you think they're up to?
Nothing good, I reckon.
Jett nodded. He'd seen enough trouble to know when it was brewing, and this was a storm on the horizon.
We need to check it out.
It wasn't a question, it was a statement, a fact. Jennifer nodded in agreement.
I'll get Mary. We'll need all hands on deck for this.
Jett watched her go, proud of her strength and determination. Tom shifted uneasily.
Boss, what if we find something we can't handle?
Then we'll handle it anyway. This is our land, our home. We protect it, no matter what.
Tom straightened up. Jett's words had strengthened his resolve. They were in this together. The team gathered at the barn. Jett laid out the plan.
We go in quiet. Tom, you lead the way. Mary, you're our eyes. Jennifer and I will bring up the rear.
Everyone nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just another day on the ranch. This was a fight for their home. They mounted their horses, the animals sensing the tension. They were restless. Jett patted his horse's neck.
Easy, boy.
The horse calmed under his touch. Jennifer rode up beside him, her face set with determination.
Ready, as we'll ever be.
The group set off, the ranch stretching out before them. It was beautiful in the morning light, but Jett couldn't enjoy it. His mind was on the task ahead. What would they find at the mine shaft? What were Virelli's men up to? The questions swirled in his mind. They rode in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The old mine shaft loomed ahead, a dark spot on the landscape, a reminder of the ranch's past, and now possibly a threat to its future. Jett took a deep breath. Whatever they found, they'd face it together as a family, as Blue Horizon Ranch.
I'll go first. The entrance to the mine shaft was dark and foreboding. Tom dismounted first, pulling out a flashlight.
You smell that? Jett nodded. He trusted Tom with his life. They all did. One by one, they entered the mine. The darkness swallowed them whole. The air was thick, musty, smelling of earth and decay. And something else. Something chemical. Jennifer wrinkled her nose.
Boss, you need to see this. Jett nodded, his heart pounding. They were getting close to something. He could feel it in his bones.
Tom's voice echoed back to them. They hurried forward, and there, in the beam of Tom's flashlight, were the crates. They were large, heavy-looking, and they didn't belong here. Not in this old mine, not on their land. Jett approached the crates, his hands steady as he pried one open. Inside, nestled in straw, were sticks of dynamite. Jett's blood ran cold. This was worse than he'd imagined. Virelli wasn't just trespassing, he was planning something big, something dangerous, and Blue Horizon Ranch was caught in the middle of it all. The ride back to the ranch was tense. They'd brought one of the crates with them. Evidence, proof of Virelli's intentions. Jett's mind was racing. What was Virelli planning? Why did he need so much dynamite? The questions kept coming, but answers were in short supply.
What are we going to do?
Jennifer rode close to Jett. Her face was pale, worried.
I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. We always do.
Jennifer nodded. She trusted him. They'd been through tough times before. They'd get through this too. They reached the ranch house. Tom and Mary took the horses to the barn. Jett and Jennifer carried the crate inside. It felt heavy, not just with dynamite, but with the weight of what it meant. the threat it posed to their home, their life. Jett set the crate down in the living room. He and Jennifer stared at it. It sat there, innocuous. Just a wooden box. But they knew better. It represented danger, a threat to everything they held dear. Jett took Jennifer's hand.
We need to call Sheriff Carter.
Jennifer nodded. It was time to bring in the law. Sheriff Carter arrived within the hour. His face was grim as he examined the crate.
This is serious, Jett.
Jett nodded. He knew. That's why he'd called.
Virelli's been causing trouble all over the county, but this is a new level.
What do you think he's planning?
Could be anything. Demolition, robbery, intimidation. With Virelli, you never know.
Jett's jaw clenched. He hated feeling helpless, especially when it came to protecting his family and his land.
What can we do?
For now, stay vigilant. I'll increase patrols in the area, and I'll put out some feelers. See if I can find out what Virelli's up to.
It wasn't much, but it was a start. Jett nodded his thanks. As the sheriff left, Jett and Jennifer exchanged looks. They knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Virelli was still out there, and he had more dynamite hidden away. They needed to be prepared for anything. The fight for Blue Horizon Ranch was just beginning. Jett paced the living room. The crate of dynamite sat like a silent accusation. Jennifer watched him, worry etched on her face.
We need more information.
Jennifer nodded. They couldn't fight an enemy they didn't understand. It was time to dig deeper. They decided to pay Sheriff Carter another visit. The drive to town was tense. Questions hung in the air between them. What was Virelli planning? How much danger were they in? The answers seemed just out of reach, like trying to catch smoke with bare hands.
I was just about to call you.
Jett's heart sank. That couldn't be good news.
We've got reports of more of Virelli's men in the area. They're up to something big.
What kind of something?
Not sure yet, but with that much dynamite, it can't be anything good.
Jennifer squeezed Jett's hand. They were in deeper than they'd thought, but they weren't backing down. Blue Horizon Ranch was worth fighting for. After leaving the sheriff's office, Jett and Jennifer decided to visit their neighbors. The Thompsons might have seen something. Anything could help at this point. They pulled up to the Thompsons' ranch. The place looked quiet, peaceful, but appearances could be deceiving. They knew that all too well now.
Jett, Jennifer, come in. We've been worried about you.
Inside, Susan Thompson was waiting. She hugged Jennifer tight. These weren't just neighbors, they were friends, family almost. And in times like these, family was everything.
We've heard rumors about Virelli, about trouble at Blue Horizon.
Jett nodded. There was no point in hiding it.
It's true. We found dynamite in the old mine shaft.
Susan gasped. James's face darkened. The threat was real, and it was affecting everyone.
Have you seen anything unusual? Any strangers around?
James and Susan exchanged looks.
Now that you mention it, there was a truck. Didn't recognize it. It was parked near your south pasture last night.
Jett leaned forward. This could be the lead they needed. The fight wasn't over yet. James Thompson leaned back in his chair. His face was grim.
That truck, it wasn't just parked there. The men inside were watching your ranch.
Jett felt a chill run down his spine. They were being surveilled. But why? What was Virelli after?
I saw them unloading something. It was dark, so I couldn't see clearly, but they were being real careful with it.
Jennifer and Jett exchanged worried glances. More dynamite or something worse. The possibilities were endless, and none of them were good.
Did you get a look at the men?
They were careful, kept to the shadows. But one thing's for sure, they weren't local, didn't move like ranchers.
This confirmed Jett's fears. Virelli was bringing in outside muscle. The situation was escalating.
Have you noticed anything else? Anything at all?
The Thompsons exchanged a look.
Well, there's been a lot of activity near the old Wilson property. You know, the abandoned one?
Jett nodded. Another piece of the puzzle, but what did it all mean? Back at Blue Horizon Ranch, Jett and Jennifer sat at the kitchen table. The information from the Thompsons swirled in their minds. They needed a plan.
We should increase our patrols, and we need to warn the other ranchers.
They couldn't face this alone. Jett stood up, pacing the kitchen.
We need to find out what's happening at the Wilson property.
Jennifer watched him, worry etched on her face.
It could be dangerous.
Jett nodded. He knew the risks, but they couldn't sit back and do nothing. Not when their home was at stake.
We'll be careful. Tom and I will go. You and Mary can hold down the fort. No. We do this together. All of us.
Jett smiled. despite the situation. This was why he loved her, her strength, her courage. They spent the next hour planning, mapping out routes, discussing scenarios. It wasn't just about protecting Blue Horizon anymore. It was about protecting their whole community. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but they'd bear it together. As a family, as ranchers, as defenders of their home. As night fell on Blue Horizon Ranch, Jett and Jennifer stood on the porch. The land stretched out before them. Beautiful, peaceful. But they knew better now. Danger lurked in the shadows, waiting, watching. They wouldn't be caught off guard again, not if they could help it.
We'll get through this, together.
It wasn't just a word, it was a promise, a vow. They'd face whatever came their way, side by side. Inside, they could hear Tom and Mary preparing for the night watch. The ranch was on high alert. Every sound, every shadow would be investigated. They weren't taking any chances. Not with Virelli's men lurking about, not with their home at stake. As they turned to go inside, Jett paused. He looked out over the ranch one last time. This land had been in his family for generations. It had weathered storms, droughts, and hard times. It would weather this too. He'd make sure of it. With Jennifer by his side and their loyal friends standing with them, Blue Horizon Ranch would endure. No matter what Virelli had planned, they were ready, united, strong, determined to protect what was theirs. The fight for Blue Horizon Ranch was just beginning, but they were ready for it, come what may.